I'll leave this off.
It's fine.
What's up, everybody? All two of you. I am jumping on here with my boy Matt Baskerjean, my Sunday Night Baseball counterpart. We're going to talk a little bit of baseball. Baseball's back. Some precaution around COVID-19. 113 page, how do we call it?
Operations manual.
Operation manual, which talks about all the things that players have to do to have precaution. There won't be 25 players. There will be 30 players. So 30 times 30 is 900. Right? No? Yes. 30 times 30?
Yeah, 900.
Yeah, 900. So 900 players have to be very, very careful on the field and off the field. And Matt and I are going to get into it a little bit. And we're all very excited to watch a little baseball. I understand we're coming back around the 23rd or 24th. And interestingly enough, I may be doing the telecast right from my home with the kids in the back. They make a lot of noise. Not sure if we're going to be at the stadium. So a lot of questions, not so many answers, but the answers are coming soon. And Maddie V should join us here any second. There he is.
Confessing?
Maddie V said he wishes he's in LA. Maddie, you want, buddy? Maddie, oh, there he is. There he is.
I'm in Jersey. It's totally the same thing.
I love, I wish I was like a cool young millennial like you with the things. I'm like the old dad that I have the strings still. My girls are like, Dad, you cannot put the strings away. Put the strings away.
They actually bought me this for Father's Day because they were tired of seeing me strangling myself with the thing and it's getting caught. And I'm with you, man.
How's
We're
the
old
family,
for this
Matt?
kind of thing.
How's everyone
Everybody's
doing?
good. Thanks. Everybody's good. We have a senior track team graduation party going on just outside, which actually would make for a much more interesting Instagram live than you and I talking baseball. Let's honest.
Absolutely.
We set up the camera, watch debauchery outside in my home. But I got one leaving for Clemson in less than 2 months.
Oh, that's awesome.
And yeah, kids are grown up and everything's good, man. How's your group doing?
Everyone's good. They've never been rowdier. 12 weeks inside has been way too much. We have way too much testosterone in this house. We have 6 alphas, 6 A1 personalities, and we're ready to rock and roll. But it's been good. I had a great Father's Day weekend. I'm spoiled by the kids, so I'm blessed. All good.
Your posts with the kids are warm and awesome, and I know that's your girls that are digging up all the cool old pictures, and it's fun, man. I never thought I would enjoy Instagram as much as I do, and now I get it. I used to give you all kinds of heck for this, and I get it now. It's kind of fun, and it's kind. I was worried about it not being a kind place, because social media and just the cancel culture and haters, and it hasn't been that. So, and some of the messages are really not. I'm glad that people are kind, for sure. So, you know what I want to get into?
Absolutely.
Like we talked about doing this because I think people might really be interested in hearing your perspective in the ridiculousness that has taken over in baseball. And luckily we're doing this now, and we agreed to do this today not knowing if we'd have an agreement to talk about. Thank goodness we do. But from where you sit, ex-player, elite player, and a guy who aspires to be a little bit more than just an ex-player, give me your first thoughts on the last 2.5 months of back and forth between the players union and teams.
Well, Maddie, for me, I'm a fan first. And also, disclaimer, I was part of the union for almost 25 years. So what you want to see is we want to see baseball. We want to see baseball all the time. I always say fans want to watch and players want to play. the most frustrating thing to watch was in the middle of COVID-19, having 30 owners going up against 750 players, and not to be able to get along. I thought we had such a great opportunity to dive in, be first to move, and start playing baseball, because at the end of the day, the world needs baseball. It needs sports. It is a culmination of all the things that's right. I mean, I learned a lot of the skills, even just sharing love, sharing the ball, being a good teammate, trying to do all those things was through sports at the Boys and Girls Club. And all we saw was this in the middle of this COVID-19, and you have 40 million people unemployed. So, look, I'm glad that baseball's back. I do think we have some making up to do. And I think the way we do that is just absolutely open up the floodgates, mic up players, give us access to the clubhouse, give us access to the bus or whatever transportation that may be. But, let us open up the tent and let the fan – look, Maddie, I'll tell you, I've had some of the greatest conversations with Jeter and Bernie Williams and Mariano Rivera. If the fans can only hear the goofiness that we talk about in the games, in the most intense part, why keep the fans out? I just don't understand that. If we're trying to sell the game, let everybody in. Let them eavesdrop.
Yeah, one of the unintended consequences of this may be that players will finally allow for a little bit of access, because it's not going to be as obtrusive as it would be with 45,000 fans in the ballpark, right? It's going to feel a lot of these games, and I've talked to enough guys to think that this is the case. A lot of these players are going to feel like these are inter-squad games. These are B games on the backfield in the spring, and that they know it counts, and everybody's going to be going 100%, but it's going to feel weird. And maybe that feeling will lend to a little bit more authenticity on the field in terms of dialogue. We'll be able to hear everything. After all, there's going to be the same mic setup in an empty stadium. We're going to hear everything, including the garbage cans in Houston. I mean, it didn't take long to get that gag in. We're going to hear it, man. You can't hide that stuff now. We're going to hear these conversations, and if guys would embrace it and talk a little bit, it would be great. Maybe that happens. I'm not sure.
If we get all this energy that we had with owners and players for the labor agreements, and by the way, we have the CBA coming in about 12 months, so that's just hopefully not a preview of what's going to happen.
Eesh.
But
Yuck.
if you think about the energy, when I entered the game, Maddie, in 1994, it was $1 billion industry. When I left, it was a $10 billion industry. If we took all that energy, instead of fighting among ourselves, is to grow the game. The NBA does a wonderful job. The NFL does a wonderful job. But collaborating, and how do we get the conversation should start, how do we get this pie from 10 billion to 15 to 20 billion, and then we share the pie. Instead, We're worried about what percentage of the pie, but we're going to make it smaller, and that's not the right fight. So anyways, I think you're right. I think just open up the floodgates. It's not a marathon, it's a sprint. It's not 162, it's 60. So that gives us an opportunity. Everyone says the game's too long. Well, you're going to blink and it's going to be over. And that's going to be a very great opportunity for Major League Baseball.
Hey, let me hit you on a couple things just to get your thoughts on some of the rules affectations now because of COVID and because the games have to be expedited. A conclusion has to be expedited. We can't have these interminable 19-inning marathons that beat up a bullpen and leave you in bad shape. They're trying to execute 60 games in 70 days. So the rule with the runner starting at second base to start extra innings, I'd like your take on that. I also want to get your thoughts on the DH in both leagues, and if you think one or both of those might stick around forever.
Well, I don't know about forever, but here's what I like. Anything that we've thought about that's kind of naughty, that's disruptive, that's contrarian, let it eat this year. First of all, I would apologize to all the traditionalists, all the older people that are going to hate and they're going to say, guess what? Let's try to be like the NBA. There's nothing wrong with cloning people that are making this global NBA league. Like, they're doing great things. Let's copy them. Let's copy some of the great things the NFL is doing. By the way, when I saw you last week at the draft, you know what I want to see? I want to see a big stage. I want to see you with a live audience. I want to see these great young players revealed, not in MLB baseball. Now, I love you guys, but I want to see I want to see Big Poppy there. I want to see some of our legends, Mike Schmidt. I want a legend representing each team, and not just Matt baskerjean there alone by himself trying to talk about Instagram. We should think about baseball should be produced like entertainment. It's an entertainment business.
Well, the Hall of Fame weekend's a great example for that too, right? I mean, let's have music. You and I have talked about that a lot. And by the way, the draft presentation, they usually do try for that. This year would have been great. They were going to do it in Omaha in conjunction with the College World Series, and it would have been pretty sexy had we not been in the COVID thing, and it got railroaded that way. So you mentioned earlier, like a curious way to put it, it's a sprint, not a marathon, right? We always hear it the other way around. It's a marathon, not a sprint. 6 months, 162 games and 180 days. Totally the opposite now. The one thing, and again, I like you, I'm really grateful we have baseball, but the one thing they whiffed on, the Players Union whiffed on, I'll say it, is expanded playoffs.
Yeah.
We hear the Players Union's complaint about teams tanking, right? How do you prevent a team from tanking? You take a middling team, like let's take the San Diego Padres, for example. A 500 team is what we all kind of have them as. If there's a chance that there are 14 teams going into the postseason, they're more willing to push in at the trading deadline than they are pull out and regroup for go get them next year won't exist. They want to win. So the fact that the PA kind of killed that because they wanted a piece of the TV money was really penny wise and pound foolish. I thought this was a perfect year for expanded playoffs because the TV deal, as you know, is the most lucrative piece of the pie for baseball, right? That's where they make their hay. And it would go from a roughly $800 million animal to, with extra games and extra teams, anywhere from 1.2 to 1.5 billion dollars. I mean, we're talking about a significant increase in money. And the players want a piece of that pie. I get it. Maybe they do that in the next CBA. This wasn't the time to do that. It was not time to negotiate the next CBA now. People are losing their jobs and they want baseball. Just get on the field. That was a bummer for me. I don't want to sound like I'm, moaning and complaining about stuff because I'm glad they settled. But I thought, man, a expanded postseason would have been awesome this year.
I mean, I love the ideas that they had originally. 30 teams, 16 make it to the postseason. That means that if you go 28 and 30, if you go 31 and 29, you have an opportunity to make it. And again, in a sprint season, it's more like the NBA. NBA has 82 games. MLB will have 60. I think that becomes an incredible competitive advantage, and it gives you an opportunity to pilot things. But I like a world where, by the way, you get off to a bad start, like the Nationals, they're done. So it is imperative to get off to a good start, and you want every team to have an opportunity to win a championship. And I do believe they missed an epic opportunity. I agree with you, Maddie.
So who do you think, is there a team that you could say this 60-game sprint benefits? I mean, the Yankees would have been good anyway, but now they get maybe Paxton a little closer to being impactful, maybe Aaron Hicks. But is there somebody who you have your eyes on here?
Yeah, I think there's 4 teams. I have 3 teams and a wild card. For one, I like the Yankees. They have Garrett Cole. They should be really, really strong. The Yankees always are. Number 2, I like the Dodgers because of their depth. They get to use now Mookie Betts and David Price. I think David Price is going to have a strong season, and their depth can be a really big competitive advantage. The 3rd team that I like is the Nationals. Why? When you win a championship, Maddie, and this happened to us in 2010 with the Yankees, everyone talks about the hangover. Well, the hangover is real, and the hangover should be over for the Nationals. And more importantly, with this veteran staff, they are rested, and they can load up that gun and have some bullets left. And for 60 days, they could be very dangerous. And then my wild card, the one team you can never overlook, are Tampa and the Rays. They are tough, they are nasty, and they are talented.
I like all that. I like the Rays a lot, and I hadn't even considered the fact that the Nationals get a pass. They get to avoid the hangover months because everybody's been sitting down now for such a long time. That's pretty interesting. So I also want to ask you about, some of the health and safety protocols that are being taken now, and credit the league and credit the Players Association. Like, they are thorough. I think they are every bit as thorough as, what a first responder might see. It's really amazing. And like a lot of it, though, is suggestions. So players are encouraged not to do this. They're encouraged to sit apart in the dugout. They're encouraged to wear masks and stuff. As a player, I mean, how much of that is realistic, do you think? And how much of that will we really see when it starts?
First of all, when you have a face like this, you're welcome putting a mask anytime, okay? That's number one. Number two, Maddie, I think there's a few things to think about. We're going back to American Legion baseball. I mean, imagine a world if I played today, I would be driving through Washington Heights to the Bronx in my pinstripes. And then I get to the stadium. There's no bat boys. There's no ball girls. There's no spitting of seeds. How do you play baseball without seeds? There's no bubble gum. You can't do that. Right now you have a little towel. Pitchers have a towel. It's fascinating. And if you're a prima donna like I was, you won't be able to play in this environment. So that's one. And the other part is, it's not a 25-man roster. It's a 30-man roster, which, of course, will get down to 26. But, like, for example, you have 30 Team A, and then you have 30 Team B. The Red Sox, for example, are using 30 players in Fenway, and then 30 players on the street are in BU. They're just the B team. They're waiting in case a few players get hurt. They just go to BU and grab the reserves, and now they become Red Sox. It's kind of pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. You know, that's an interesting thing to think about, too. The teams that have their quote-unquote taxi squad that are closest and ready to go. I mean, you could have a taxi squad guy up in the second inning if it's done right, if you're lucky enough. But for some teams, like take the Blue Jays, for example, I'm not sure what their plan is, so I don't want this to reflect any knowledge or actual record. But if they use Dunedin as a place to house their taxi squad, it's going to take them a half a day to get to Rogers Center, clear customs, whatever COVID-related difficulties are created there. I wouldn't be surprised if the Blue Jays set up shop in St. Catharines or Ottawa or someplace relatively close to the big league team north of the border. But all this stuff is like, this is the great unknown. This is the wild, wild west. Nobody's ever done this before. I guess the team that's ready, that has it all together, is the team that has an advantage here, whether it's one of the teams you listed or somebody else.
Yeah, I think two things, man. I think teams that are veteran, that have gelled together, like you and I are going to get along great, because imagine if you and I have never played together. We've never been in the booth together. But teams that know each other, that have some chemistry, are going to help. I also think managers like Tito Francona and the Indians will have an advantage because everybody loves Tito Francona. He has chemistry going in. It doesn't take him 7 weeks or 3 months to get chemistry. He's got it day one. Credibility. He's a world champion. All those things will work really well. So it's something to watch early.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned this for our telecast, right? For Sunday nights, you know, we're scheduled to do, 9 or 10 of these things. And no one's told us this specifically. So again, we're not sure this is the way it's going to go, but the tea leaves are kind of pointing toward us being at home in separate quarters, or maybe you being in a studio in LA, me being in a studio in Jersey or Bristol. I'm going to have you and a monitor here. We're going to have the game here. We're going to have some stats here. When you want to say something, you're going to do this to me, and I'm going to. It's going to be weird, but I'm actually looking forward to it because it's going to be so different. What do you think?
I think we should have a sleepover party on Sunday. Then we should be at the same house. Okay. And Moses should come over, and Buster. We should have pizza, some Presidentes. It's going to be great. You know, I'm looking forward to baseball. I got to tell you, in a world where everyone says baseball is so long, I have a feeling this summer fans won't be saying that. They're going to really enjoy every moment of it. And I think, my prediction, and again, by the way, a disclaimer, this is not exactly the New York Times. Whatever we're saying, we're having a lot of fun. We don't have any real information. We're being fans that love baseball, okay? So,
right.
But Maddie, I will say that I hope that we get at least 3 or 4 games where we could be at the stadium. Nothing makes me happier than being at a Major League Baseball park. When I see that green grass, there is nothing better and more epic.
Yeah, it's going to be weird, too, if we get to go to the ballpark, right? We're going to be in the booth or wherever. I mean, we could sit wherever, right? No one's going to be in there. We can sit behind the home plate if we wanted to. But there's a chance that what we're saying could actually be heard on the field because it's going to be so hollow in the building, especially if it's in, say, the Trop or, Rogers Center with a roof closed or Minute Maid. It's not as bad as if, say, we were doing an NBA game and you're on the floor and you're commenting on the 10 guys that are right there in front of you. But there's a chance that if somebody kicks one and we say, hey, tough Hopper Bregman, but he's got to have that, or whatever is said. Like, he could be looking up, going, it's gonna be weird.
That reminds me, in 1994, when I went to Old Tiger Stadium, the famous broadcaster,
Ernie Harwell.
I would hear his voice, because remember, that upper deck would almost like hang over home plate.
Yeah.
And you would hear him. And sometimes we went in there in April and it was snowing, it was cold, there wasn't a lot of people in the stadium, and you can hear, and there was a little delay, and there was it was awesome. It was strange, but you're like, oh my God, he's a legend, and he says that I suck. It's kind of cool the way he says that. Sounds great.
That's good. Hey, you mentioned 94, and I want to ask you about this too, because for a lot of younger players, younger fans, this might be the first labor issue in our game that they're aware of. They might know that previous labor issues existed. Early 80s was bad, going back to testing the free agent clause of the reserve clause with Flood and Messersmith. Labor and baseball have had their hot and cold moments. But you lived through 94 and 95. You were a young bull trying to establish your star in the league. How do you think all this compared to what happened back then?
It was the strangest thing, Maddie, because we were in Oakland, and I believe it was like August 12th, 1994. And I'll never forget, I think Griffey hit a home run. It might have been his 40th. Now, at the time, Ken Griffey Jr. was like the Michael Jordan of baseball. He was the biggest star in the world when it came to baseball. And they're here. I'm hearing this labor strike, and I didn't even know what that meant. Like, we're going to stop playing baseball for what? And then I understood the story from Marvin Miller to Don Fear and the players going up against the owners. But it was so strange because I had all my teammates going home, and I went to Calgary to play AAA for the Mariners, and I ended my season, and all of a sudden there was no World Series, and it was a very sad, sad moment. We were very fortunate that we had Cal Ripken in the streak. And the next summer, Cal Ripken, on that beautiful night in the summer, Cal Ripken, of course, is my favorite player growing up. He had that great night against the Angels where he went around and broke Lou Gehrig's record. And in many ways, it was the combination of Cal Ripken's streak, and then a few years later, Sosa and McGuire with the home run chase put baseball back on the map. I think today's different. The world's different today. And you got to understand, Maddie, back in 1994, we didn't have the explosion of the NFL. We didn't have the NBA being this global, iconic thing. Soccer was not coming as it is so fast. So today, we have Netflix, we have YouTube, we have Snapchat, we have TikTok. Baseball didn't have that in 1994. I think if I was baseball and thinking big picture, I would think international, I would think entertainment, and I would think, how do we grow the game? We don't have the leverage we had in 94 as players. You have to think a little differently, a little bit more democratically, and don't look at the owners as your enemies. Look at owners as your ally and build that pie. That pie needs to grow, and it's going to take a collective effort.
Boy, that's the hardest part of the whole pie right now, too, is there's such an adversarial kind of air between the two groups, and there's such mistrust between the two groups. And it's almost as though the PA is operating in the sense that if it's good for baseball, it's bad for the players. There are people in that room that feel that way. But were you ever a player rep in your career?
No.
I should know that.
Me? No. No. No.
Because I think a lot of fans, like, each team has a rep, and then there is an executive committee of 8, which is made up of 8 additional votes. So there's 38 votes when these things come to the unions, to pass or not. Yeah. And that's what the case was here. So, what the union didn't pass, the last proposal, even though they have an agreement to play, the union said no to the last proposal that the owners made, which, by the way, ironically gave them the 100% prorated salary that they were after. But what the PA didn't want to give up was the right to file a grievance. They felt like they wanted to keep that in their pocket. And again, we're not taking sides here, one or the other. It's just factually that's kind of what's happening. I'm just glad they figured it out for this year. I agree with you in that, the 2021 CBA is going to be hairy and messy. And man, I just hope that everybody can cool off before then, because there's a sense that they were pre-negotiating that document now with what they were doing during the COVID thing.
And if that was the case, it was the wrong timing, because you don't do that in the middle of a pandemic. Now, I will say this. Take a step back away from baseball. In business, you never want an industry where you have owners and your employer losing tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. What you want is the opposite. You want your owners to grow the enterprise, and you want to share in that enterprise value. And I feel that they're speaking a different language. And I really hope that as we come up to this next CBA, that the thought is about how do we grow the pie and share it, not on how do we take the pie and keep fighting, because that's going to make the pie smaller. Totally.
That's a good sentiment to end that with. So I guess to end on a light note, unless you had something else, I'm trying to read some of the messages on this, and you're more familiar with live Instagram Live than I am. Somebody was asking about the bats back here, so I just want to show you. They're all kind of fake. They're all like, congratulations for 2 years of employment at MLB Network. Here's something you'd never use. There's only 2 real ones here, and I'll show them to you. And then I want to ask you what your favorite piece of memorabilia is. I have 2 of my favorite players here. I don't want to put you on the spot.
Sure.
This is one of yours.
Nice. Okay. All right.
Is that legit? Is that really yours? Because I paid for it in an auction.
That's legit, baby.
I didn't get screwed on that? Okay,
no,
good.
You didn't.
That's real.
That's real.
And I don't know if it's backwards.
Is that David Robinson? Who is that?
Dave Kingman.
Oh, nice.
Dave Kingman was one of my favorites because he was like launch angle, feast or famine, strikeout or homer before it was cool to be that guy.
He would be the highest play in the game in today's game. He never made
contact. Him and
rowdier. And when he made contact, it was a home run.
So do you have any memorabilia from your career that is like really, really kind of cherished, special?
I have a few things from the championship run. A couple of my jerseys from that run, my home run bats. I wasn't really a big collector. It was one of those things that I look back. I never wanted to be that guy that asked for things. But look, there is nothing like my championship ring. That's the one thing that I wear it at least once or twice a year. And that's my prized possession.
What about, is there something from an older player? Like when we had Hank Aaron in the booth in Atlanta a couple years ago, I mean, I walked out of there after that game and said, did I really sit next to Hank Aaron for 20 minutes and not ask him to sign a baseball? What kind of a moron could I be?
I was thinking the same thing.
Like that? Well, I mean, we screwed that one up.
I have a few great things from Cal Ripken, which, that was my guy. I have shoes. I have his bat. Those are pretty cool possessions. I have a Michael Jordan jersey in basketball, Magic Johnson. But baseball, that's about it. I think I end at Cal Ripken.
Yeah, that's good, man. Hey, look, if you're going to end it with somebody, that's the one to end it with. This was good, man. It's good to see you, bro.
I can't wait to get back at it. I miss baseball, and I always say baseball is America's comfort food, and we're back, baby, better than ever.
I like that. We'll eat some comfort food together in about a month.
All right. See you, Maddie.
Say hi to everybody, man. See you, Alex.
You bet.